Europe is not standing still. While people argue on television and headlines try to shock us, the real shifts are happening quietly, in birth records at borders and in schoolyards. Some believe Islam will eventually swallow Europe. Others dismiss it and claim nothing significant will change. Both misunderstand what is truly unfolding. The reality is more serious and more human. By the year 2050, Muslims could make up as little as around 7% or as much as close to 14% of Europe's population. This isn't a fate written in stone. It's the result of Europe's decisions today about migration, war and peace, and family life. Behind every percentage point is a real person, a real family, a real future. In this video, we step away from fear and slogans to ask a deeper question. What kind of Europe are we building? For Christians, for Muslims, and for those with no religion at all? If you want to explore these changes with honesty, faith, and curiosity, make sure to subscribe and join the conversation. When we ask how much of Europe might be Muslim by 2050, the only honest answer is that it depends far more on future migration than on destiny written into numbers. Demographers don't see one future, but several possible paths shaped by political choices, economic crises, wars, peace treaties, and the decisions of families who choose to move or stay. That is why serious studies offer a range, not one fixed figure. If migration slows or stops, Muslims might represent about 7.4% by mid-century. But if current or higher migration continues, their share could rise towards something closer to 14%. The gap between these two possibilities reveals the key variable. It's not religion, but Europe's openness to people on the move. This matters because it shows demographic change is not a mysterious threat. It is a human story shaped by policy, conflict, and hope. Lower migration means growth driven mostly by younger age profiles and higher birth rates already within European Muslim communities. Higher migration adds those who flee wars, seek work, or join family members. The difference between 7.4% and 14% is not a math crisis. It is a difference between two worlds of borders and political responsibility. For Christians and Muslims alike, this calls for thoughtful reflection instead of fear. Behind every percentage is a person, a name, a fragile story. In modern life, where headlines move fast and outrage spreads easily, it is tempting to grab the highest number and turn it into fear or political weapon. But a faith-filled response is different. It listens carefully. It distinguishes between low migration and high migration futures. And it remembers that the gospel calls us to see migrants not as statistics, but as brothers and sisters. For Catholics and other Christians in Europe, the question isn't only how many Muslims there will be, but how we choose to live alongside them, with fear or with dialogue. You can choose to seek accurate information instead of slogans, meet Muslim classmates with curiosity instead of suspicion, and let your faith guide you toward justice. Understanding Europe's present landscape starts with a clear baseline. In 2016, Muslims made up about 4.9% of the population across 30 European countries, around 25.8 million people. This reminds us we are talking about real communities shaping Europe's social fabric. But their presence is uneven. Western nations like France, Germany, and the UK have higher numbers because of historical migration, colonial ties, and labor programs. Eastern Europe has far fewer due to different histories and policies. This creates two very different European experiences, one where interfaith contact is daily life, and another where it is distant. That 4.9% might look small, but in real life it influences schools, workplaces, culture, and identity. For Catholics and all people of faith, this is an opportunity to understand rather than fear. You can start by seeking reliable information, speaking respectfully with neighbors, and seeing data as a chance for dialogue, not division. One key fact is that Muslim growth in Europe is not about migration alone. It is carried by the younger age structure and birth rates already present. Muslims are on average 13 years younger than the non-Muslim population. A younger community means more births and more time to grow. Fertility rates average around 2.6 children per Muslim woman versus 1.6 for non-Muslims. That difference may look small, but across millions of families, it creates steady growth. Even if migration stopped completely, the Muslim population would still rise because of the children already being born. This momentum is built into the age pyramid. For believers, this is not just about numbers. It is an invitation to prepare communities for a diverse future, more Muslim classmates, colleagues, and neighbors. Christians can respond with fear or with dialogue and hospitality. The first scenario is zero migration. If all borders close permanently, Muslims would still reach around 7.4%, about 35 million people. This growth comes entirely from families already living in Europe. The medium scenario assumes refugee flows stop, but regular migration continues. Here, Muslims could make up about 11.2%, roughly 58.8 million people. Period. This reflects today's most realistic policies. The high migration scenario assumes levels seen between 2014 and 2016 continue. Under these conditions, Muslims may reach about 14%, around 75 million. Even then, Muslims remain a minority. The future is not Islam replacing Christianity. It is a more plural Europe. Countries will not change equally. Germany and Sweden could reach around 20% and 31%. France could reach around 12.7%, even if migration stopped entirely. Eastern Europe stays relatively unchanged. The map becomes a mosaic. These shifts affect identity, politics, labor, and culture. Migration fuels fear and hope. A younger population supports aging societies, but only with good integration. Populist movements rise. Election campaigns focus on borders, identity, and security. For Christians, these shifts bring challenge and calling. They ask you to see the person before the politics, to defend dignity, to avoid simplified stories. In your own life, it means learning real causes of migration, speaking respectfully, and building friendships. Looking across all scenarios, Europe in 2050 falls between 7.4% and 14% Muslim. The future is not fixed. It is shaped by human choices. The greatest question is not size, but whether nations choose fear or creative hospitality. For believers, this is a call to form conscience and build a culture rooted in human dignity.